Today we're going to talk about something that maybe doesn't get discussed much, but a lot of people have experienced it: haunted houses. Do you agree that sometimes when you enter a house you get a strange feeling, a heavy sensation, a kind of anxiety, as if the walls are talking to you, as if something in that house is alive? Now, this feeling might come from the lingering energies of people who used to live there. Or maybe, just maybe, it's something else that we don't know about. Have you ever been alone in your own house and heard a strange sound? The sound of rustling in the hallway, or something falling in the kitchen, or even the sound of breathing? You feel like someone is behind you, then you quickly turn around and see nothing. There's only darkness and silence. That's when your heart starts pounding and you get goosebumps. Today we're going to dive into real stories and accounts from people who have lived in strange and unusual houses. They've experienced things and seen and heard things that they could never find a logical explanation for. We want to find out what these mysterious sounds, these moving shadows, these strange feelings really are. Is it all just our mischievous brains playing tricks on us, or is there really something supernatural going on? I remember once I went to a friend's house, a really old house with high ceilings and wooden windows. Night fell, we turned off the lights, and we were watching a horror movie. Suddenly we heard the sound of dishes clattering in the kitchen. It was a really loud noise. At first we thought it was a cat or the wind, but the doors and windows were closed. My friend said, "The jinn and spirits must be our guests tonight." But honestly, we couldn't sleep until morning, and every little sound reminded us of those clattering dishes. You know, the human mind gets really mischievous in the dark, doesn't it? Poltergeist phenomena or invisible inhabitants. Well, when it comes to strange phenomena, the first thing that comes to mind is the story of poltergeists. This word comes from German and it means a noisy spirit or a troublesome spirit. Poltergeists are those mischievous and playful spirits whose job is to cause trouble and torment. Of course, they're not necessarily spirits. Some people say they come from negative energies. So, what kind of mischief do poltergeists get up to? For example, you might suddenly see a closet door opening and closing by itself. Lights keep turning on and off, objects fall off the table, or even the sound of footsteps and rustling can be heard, even though there's no one in the house. Has anything like this ever happened to you? There are many stories about poltergeists. For example, a family once said that every night their kitchen items would move around on their own. In the mornings they'd wake up and see that the spoons weren't in the drawer or the pots had moved into the sink, something like that. It's as if someone was moving furniture in their house in the middle of the night. An interesting thought. Many poltergeist phenomena happen in houses where teenagers live. Some psychologists say that the negative energy and anxiety of teenagers can cause these kinds of events to happen. So if you have a moody and energetic teenager at home, it might be them who's making the walls shake. Of course, this is just a theory, not a proven scientific fact, but you can always find someone to blame, right? One very famous true story is the Enfield poltergeist case in England. In the 1970s, a family in Enfield claimed that supernatural events were happening in their house. Objects were being thrown, banging noises could be heard, and even family members were pulled out of bed. The situation became so serious that the police and paranormal investigators got involved. Though whether their accounts are true or not, you never really know. To this day, this story remains one of the most famous poltergeist cases in the world. So, next time you're home alone and suddenly something falls from your hand or you hear a strange noise, first, take a look at the teenager in your house, if there is one. Maybe you just have an invisible guest who's playing tricks on you? Well, now that we've talked about poltergeists, let's move on to some even scarier phenomena that are more connected to our senses. Mysterious sounds and shadows. Have you ever been in a dark room and you feel like something is staring at you, or suddenly a shadow passes by the corner of your eye, but when you turn around there's nothing there? These are those moments when your brain starts making up scary stories and your heart jumps into your throat. There's a scientific phenomenon called hypnagogic hallucination that happens when you're between sleep and wakefulness. It means you're not fully awake yet, but your brain starts seeing and hearing things that aren't real, like the sound of footsteps, seeing shadows, or even feeling a presence. You feel like there's someone in your room. Many people in these moments feel like there's a presence in their room watching them. But the story doesn't end with just brain hallucinations. Many people claim they've heard unexplainable sounds. One of the scariest stories I've heard was from a family who lived in an old house. They said every night they would hear the sound of a baby crying coming from the walls of the rooms. No matter how much they searched for the source of the sound, they couldn't find anything. In the end, they had to leave that house because they just couldn't get rid of that mysterious sound. Sometimes these phenomena are also accompanied by a particular smell. For example, the smell of oldness, the scent of rosewater, or even the smell of something burning, even though there is no source for these odors. This too could be a sign of something supernatural, or maybe it's just our brain. In these moments, your brain might be playing a little trick on you, so the next time you're home alone and hear a strange sound, take a deep breath first. Maybe your brain is just messing with you. Or maybe, just maybe, you really do have an invisible guest in your house who's trying to get your attention. But now we get to the part of the story where it's no longer a joke and things actually get scary. I mean, haunted houses. In these kinds of homes, it's not just the sound of footsteps or a door opening and closing anymore. Instead, there are entities involved whose goal isn't just to play pranks, but to make their presence strongly felt. Sometimes they even try to harm the residents. At this point, it's no longer just our minds playing tricks on us. Rather, there's an external force at work. One of the most famous and terrifying cases is the Amityville house in America. In 1974, someone in this house killed 6 members of his family. After that, a new family named the Lutzes moved in to live in that house, but they only lasted 20-some days before leaving, claiming that terrifying things were happening in that house. Whispering demonic voices, the stench of rot, objects moving on their own, and even the appearance of a creature, a pig-like being with red eyes. The story was so frightening that they even made a movie about it. Now, whether it's true or not is up to them, but it's scary enough that for a long time people avoided even passing by that old house. Not passing by is one of the main features of haunted houses, the sudden and inexplicable feeling of cold. That means even on a hot summer day, you might suddenly feel a wave of cold, a terrifying chill passing right by you. Many people see this as a sign of the presence of a non-organic being, or a spirit, as if the energy around that entity drastically lowers the temperature of the environment. Hearing loud and clear sounds of conversations or evil laughter and even physical harm to objects or people. An important point is that many people who claim to have been in such houses say those entities feed off negative energies. So if you get scared, anxious, or angry, it's like you're giving them power. So if you ever get stuck in a haunted house, try to stay calm, because the more you get scared, the easier you make things for those entities. Now, were you able not to be afraid? So far, we've talked about things you might experience while awake. But sometimes, fear finds its way into the world of dreams too. Yes, nightmares. Sometimes you have such terrifying dreams that you wake up with your heart pounding, and for a few minutes, you don't even know where you are. It's as if all that fear felt completely real. These nightmares show just how powerful our brains are at creating scary scenarios, even when we're asleep. Scientifically speaking, nightmares, they usually happen when our brain is processing the stresses and worries of the day, or sometimes they're the result of watching a scary movie before bed. Your brain takes in that information and then starts working on it while you sleep, creating even scarier versions of it, like a horror movie director who never stops working. But some people believe that nightmares aren't just a result of stress. Some say that in nightmares we might encounter things that exist in the real world but we can't see them. For example, seeing dark shadows, frightening faces, or experiencing paralysis in your sleep, what's known as sleep paralysis, or baktak. That feeling where you're awake, you can hear and see everything but you just can't move or scream. It's scary enough on its own. Many people who have experienced sleep paralysis say they feel a dark, heavy presence sitting on their chest, as if it's pressing down on their ribcage and suffocating them. Science says it's just the brain getting stuck between sleep and wakefulness, losing control over the muscles. But well, when you get that feeling in the middle of the night, it's hard to remember the scientific explanation. All you want is for that presence to get off your chest. Now that we've talked about houses and nightmares, let's move on to places with strange energies, cursed locations. Here, it's not just a house that might be haunted. It could be an old prison, an abandoned hospital, an ancient cemetery, or even a particular forest. Places that have such negative and frightening energies that they chill you to the bone. Many people believe that when something really bad or violent happens in a place, the energy of that event lingers in the environment, like an invisible tape recorder that keeps replaying that moment over and over. That's why when you enter such places, you might feel a heaviness, sadness, or even fear and terror, even if you don't see or hear anything. One of the most famous examples of cursed places are abandoned psychiatric hospitals. These asylums are full of sad stories and horrifying events. The patients who lived there suffered, and some of them may have been treated in inhumane ways. So it's no surprise that some people claim that you can still hear moans and screams coming from the dark hallways of these places. Or they see shadows moving in the darkness. It's as if the spirit of that patient is still alive there and suffering. Or, for example, old prisons that are full of the spirits of prisoners who may have been innocent or treated violently. Many people who have visited these prisons say they feel a sense of suffocation, grief, and hopelessness. Some have even heard the sounds of suffering or quiet whispers. So next time you want to visit an old and abandoned place for some excitement, be careful. Maybe it's not just an old building there. Maybe you're actually partying with the spirits that inhabit that place. Now, the main question is, are these things real? Do spirits and invisible beings really exist? Or is it all just a trick of our minds, fueled by fear and stress that creates these scary stories? Science still doesn't have a definite answer for all these phenomena. Some things can be explained by optical illusions, auditory errors, or even wind and temperature changes. But some phenomena are so strange and inexplicable that even scientists don't know what to say about them. Maybe there really is a parallel world that we just can't see. Sometimes the boundary between this world and the other becomes faint for a few moments and a being from that world peeks through. Or maybe our minds are so complex and powerful that they can make anything seem real, even when it isn't real. What matters is that feeling fear is completely natural. Sometimes it's this very feeling of fear that makes us think about things we might never have considered otherwise. It makes us ask questions. It sparks our curiosity and makes us look at the world around us from a different perspective. Now, a final question for you brave listeners. Which of these phenomena do you believe in more? In ghosts and supernatural beings, or in the strange and mysterious power of our own minds? Be sure to follow us and write your answer in the comments, because your opinion is very important to us. Thank you for staying with me until now, and until the next episode, goodbye.